All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I am joined by
Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder of Movers Shakers Unlimited, man. How's it going, buddy? Everything
It's
been
going
pretty good?
good, man. Happy Saturday. Happy
Yeah, happy
Saturday.
Saturday,
So
happy weekend.
For sure. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining us here, as I said, on Saturday for This Week in Review. So the show that we have every Saturday that discusses the news bits that happen over the course of the week. So with that being said, I just want to, drop a couple of reminders, minutes, if you will. Just make sure if you are catching this show after it is airing live right now, currently, that you can be a part of the conversation by using that hashtag that you just saw just a moment ago, which is TWNRMNSU. That's This Week in Review, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And then also, of course, if you want to be able to support the content that we provide here, and just as a thank you, or just to help us out with some of the supplies and various things that we use in order to bring this show to you, just know that you can also be a Patreon supporter. So the link can be found just down below. So patreon.com, Movers Shakers Unlimited. So with that out of the way, let's hop into our first story, which there are a couple of things that we'll get into today. I'll just give you guys a heads up that it is relatively Marvel heavy just to start at the top half, and then at the end, just to tease, we will get into a brief non-spoiler review, if you will, of the Suicide Squad, which Jerome and I had an opportunity to see over the week that we just had. So the first story that I want to get into deals with the Hawkeye series, and apparently over this week we did receive news that this upcoming Disney Plus series about the character from the Avengers that we know, Clint Barton, will be making its debut in November. To be more specific, it's going to be debuting on November 24th. So, Jerome, we got this news over this week of this show making its debut in a couple of months. I mean, I know there was some speculation that maybe it wouldn't drop until maybe early next year, but we're actually getting it this year. And if memory serves, with other projects that are coming out, we're also getting Eternals at the top of that month as well. So your thoughts? Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure if I was muted. Yeah, and also thanks guys for joining us for this episode 24. So
Yep.
still going strong.
Almost quarter century, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, we knew that this show was going to come out in the fall, so it was expected. But yeah, I mean, coming out in November, I mean, it's really a good time to be a Marvel fan. Obviously, we're kind of spoiled because of the, I guess, the leftovers from that were supposed to come out last year, but had to be pushed back to this year. But I mean, yeah, I mean, this would be what is it? I guess the fifth show if you include What If that's supposed to come out in August.
Right. Yeah.
And then I know we're supposed to see, yeah. So Hawkeye. I don't know if was it Miss Marvel supposed to come out in the fall too. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be pushed back, but yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, these shows have been great so far. And yeah, I mean, not to give any spoilers away, but whatever. I mean, it's a good continuation of a certain movie that came out also that came out this year. I'm not going to mention, but whatever. You guys should have probably seen it by now. And also, no, it's interesting just seeing what stories can be told with Hawkeye, and it's good that he's getting something that focuses on his story. So, I mean, I never really thought of him getting his own movie, but having a series, it makes sense. And, being able to pass the baton to I guess his daughter, or the Kate Bishop character. And also I was hearing there's supposed to be a spinoff with Echo,
Right.
perhaps. So But yeah, I mean, I'm excited because I've been enjoying these shows. You know, I think so far my favorite one has been the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Um, but I think Loki had the best episode, at least that season finale. That like period, that one was amazing. But yeah, they're doing a good job connecting all these shows, these series with the films and building up the hype. And I do find it funny, like when I talk to some people that are fans. I mean, well, it depends. Um, where like some are like, oh, maybe I'll get Disney Plus. I'll get Disney Plus and try to watch all of them in one day or something. And I'm like, I mean, for me, I have to have Disney Plus just so I could watch what happens in these shows to see what's going to be part of the continuation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, yeah, I mean, that was definitely a good selling point to get me to be a subscriber. So, it's definitely make it worthwhile that having these shows plus the Star Wars shows, or at least like the Mandalorian. Like, it's definitely been worth my money. But yeah, I'm excited to see this, and I'm hoping that there'll be some good cameos too. And that's what I've been noticing a lot. You know, obviously you get some good cameos in some of these shows, and then they also introduce some characters that maybe haven't been, people haven't really thought about, or maybe they're in the background, and then eventually they'll become, more important characters later on. So they're setting up a lot of these smaller characters. So it'll be exciting to see what happens with this.
Definitely, definitely. And most of the points that you made, second, I guess the only other thing, I think the other caveat that we didn't add to this is, in speaking of the movie that recently came out, or to say released a couple of weeks ago, so Black Widow, we do have a character from that franchise that will be featuring in this film. So Yelena Belova. So for those of you that are eagle-eyed, those who know the comics know that she is a character who will figure very heavily going forward, more than likely, into our Avengers team. And then also too, even with, to speak further on Kate Bishop, just that idea of really delving deeper into some of those younger characters that may potentially develop into young Avengers, which it seems like we may be heading to with all the other, series that you had just commented on, that funnily enough, each had, young Avenger characters in them. I don't think that was an accident. You had two of them in WandaVision. You had one in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And we may potentially also have one in Loki as well. I know a lot of people are sleeping on that, but we had a young version of our star, or say of our title character, who figures into Young Avengers as well. So that's all I'll say on that. So yeah, there's so many different, possibilities in terms of what can be what can be discussed or what can be covered over the course of the series. And I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, allegedly there are other characters that may pop up as well, maybe some Netflix related characters that we know and love.
We'll see.
So we will see for sure.
Even though I heard they're trying to revamp some of those characters, but yeah, I know that they're going to use some of the older ones. Well, that's been the rumors at least. But yeah, I mean, also I'm wondering, what was I going to say? I wonder if you probably get. I mean, I'm assuming that you might get some of those some of the characters from Falcon and Winter Soldier popping up in it too. I mean, I would think, because what's her,
they're in
there's a character,
they're grounded enough.
There's a character in Falcon Winter Soldier. Well, actually, yeah, that has a crossover.
Yeah, they will figure in there. Yeah.
So
I know who you mean.
I'm not gonna say anything because people still are taking too long to watch a certain movie that came out this this month, maybe, but maybe next month we'll talk about it.
But with that being said, ironically, moving on to the next story, it touches on that very thing. So unfortunately, I guess for better or for worse. So this week there was news that dropped that the star of Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, better known as Natasha Romanoff, as the character of Black Widow in that film, is suing Disney. So apparently, because of an agreement that was made in terms of the release of Black Widow, because of a breach in terms of how it was released, that she is currently in the process of suing Disney. So you hear this, Jerome. I have thoughts on this idea, but I'll punt it over to you first to get your 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a game changer, and I don't think this will be the last one. Well, depending on how this gets resolved, will determine if other stars do follow suit. I mean, it's pretty sad that it's come to this because this is totally something that could have been dealt with behind the scenes and
for sure
negotiate. And I'm surprised it wasn't. But I'm sure, this gives each party, at least gives Scarlett Johansson some more leverage, probably, because I mean Disney is a big company. But it's also interesting if you look in the lawsuit, at least according to Variety, they're saying how she sued Disney, not Marvel, and Marvel has a form of arbitration for any disputes, but Disney, it looks like Disney probably wants to have they'd rather have arbitration instead of just going in court, because then it could mitigate, minimize any bad publicity or whatever, even though there already is from this. But I mean, this is what happens sometimes. But I mean, I'm just surprised that Disney didn't figure out some sort of solution financially to make Scarlett Johansson happy based on everything that's happened the last year. Because I mean, HBO Max, they were forced to do that quick because they were releasing everything. They were releasing everything on HBO Max and in theaters, and that was a big shock. But they made sure that they paid, Gal Gadot, Denzel Washington, what is it, John M. Chu, Lin-Manuel Miranda, all of them. They got their formula. I mean, they all had different deals probably, but they made sure that they were paying them a good amount to at least keep them happy, so they wouldn't have to, and usually you would think that's what would happen. But like I said, I don't know all the details, but according to what's been reported in the press, I mean, if I don't blame. I mean, to me, it sounds like obviously either a misinterpretation of what certain terms were in the contract, or it's going to be the term is going to be based on how they interpret it, or how I guess the court interprets it. But I'm not going to hate on Scarlett Johansson for wanting to get compensated for a lack of box office returns, because there is no denying, if you look at the numbers, I mean, with the money that came from Disney Plus, that definitely had an impact on the box office. But at the same time, it's I would think that Disney would have had some deal with her already, be like, all right, we're going to do this, so we'll cut you in. So that's kind of odd. But because you got to remember, a lot of these stars, especially Marvel, they're making most of their money. I mean, they're making a good amount of money anyway, but they're making most of their money from the back end. So if the box office results aren't there, they're not going to get their full amount. But and also with this whole new streaming model, a lot of these companies, they haven't been as transparent with how they made money. I guess if people signed up, but when it comes to this premium way of purchasing the movie, it is pretty clear, at least. And Disney did release how much money they made. I think it was $60 million. I think they made $60 million from the streaming. Let's see. Hold on, just want to double check.
I was going to say, while you're doing that, I have the story up now. This is, had tipped over to a Variety. This is the story that they had. However, as I said, it's all over the place, but figure I'll pull it up here. That gives the details of what it entails. So in essence, I have it highlighted here. It says in one corner, Johansson, who claims that Walt Disney Company has cheated her by releasing Black Widow simultaneously on Disney Plus and in theaters. In the other, Disney, who unfortunately, tore into the actress, made the statement, saying that it was sad and depressing because they were saying that she was showing callous disregard for the effects of COVID-19. However, with keeping that in mind, the thing that immediately comes to mind for me in thinking of this situation is just the idea with however way it goes, just the precedent that it will set in
The
either,
precedent, yeah.
yeah, that it will set in either regard. Because if it go should it, hopefully it goes in the way of Johansson, because it's the principle of what she agreed to. It allows gives actors that fortitude, of that presence, to be able to know that in situations like this that may arise, that the potential is there if they need to go in that route of doing suing a studio, a company, what have you, that because of a case like this, that they will more than likely come out on top in terms of what the results were. However, on the other side of this, the thing that concerns me about this is we have an entire franchise, and arguably your most important franchise, because I know a lot of people say Star Wars, but I hate to say it, like, Star Wars is kind of outside of the what's on streaming, like, movie wise, it's kind of in disarray. So that can't really be said about your Marvel properties. You have your film projects that are doing very well, and now that you just started your streaming shows, those are also doing very well. So everything is firing on all cylinders. So why try to sabotage that by not being fair to the very creative powers that allow you to produce those shows, one of your stars. So and you have the possibility of other actors coming on board too. So this kind of sets a bad example, I feel, or it can possibly put a bad taste in the mouth of anyone who is thinking of joining the MCU, whether they are a filmmaker, whether they are an actor, a writer, whatever level they're at, based on this circumstance. So hopefully, regardless of how this plays out, that Disney can still keep that relationship that they have with Johansson. Hopefully they're able to resolve it, because if it doesn't get resolved, or it doesn't end amicably, it could really be disastrous going forward for anyone that they are trying to recruit or
Retain.
retain, exactly, that are a part of the MCU, because this is going to put a bad taste in anyone's mouth of, okay, this is how you're going to do you're one of the actors of one of your tentpole franchises, and what is that going to look like if I ever have a deal like that? Am I going to have to go through a lot of
Mm-hmm.
those same things? So as I said, hopefully it gets resolved amicably for both parties.
Yeah, and also I would say two more things. She's able to do that. Like, Scarlett Johansson is able to do this because she's a big name and she's solidified herself in the in the MCU, and has a lot of other projects that she can do. Like, if she wasn't as big of a name, I don't think she would have had probably much leverage. It would have been probably harder. So that's also really important, just for actors in general, for someone at her caliber doing this. So it's definitely helpful. Another thing is, I know I've seen some comments online and whatever people. It's interesting to see how people I've seen how people try to make this like almost acting like sexist, or like hating on her just because she's a woman or whatever. I thought that was weird, or because she's asking for more money. But it's like, regardless of how much money it is that she's owed or whatever, like, it's not even about that. It's just about the agreement and the terms. So I just want to make that clear.
Again,
like,
it's about the principle.
when I hear people, when I've seen some criticisms, I think it's ridiculous, where people are saying, or I mean, whatever. You're always gonna have trolls on the internet, or people. Everyone has an opinion, but people trying to make it out for, oh, well, she needs more. She wants more money. She's greedy. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with the money. It has to do with just what was agreed to. And if she was agreed to certain things and it wasn't, and things changed because of the pandemic and how the release was, because the main thing they're saying is when it said a wide release. Now she got a wide release, but it said her camp is saying, at least according to the article in Variety, that wide release meant exclusive release. So that's where they're going to have their, that's where the dispute is, because Disney was saying, oh no, well, you did have a wide release, but does it actually say exclusive? And that's where a lot of this the key points are. But I don't care if she's owed $1 billion. She's suing for $1 billion or what. Like, it doesn't matter for me. It's like just the principle. Like, you want to keep your word for, when you're doing business with people, specifically with high end talent, A-list talent. And yeah, either way, it's going to set a good or bad precedent for either entity. But the thing is, a big company like Disney, a lot of times if you're a big company like that, you have more leverage. So you can, I mean, I'm not saying that Disney screws over their actors or whatever, but if they wanted to, like, a lot of times you could get away with it because, you have to have money to go to court. You have, like, Scarlett Johansson has enough money and lawyers that she could do this sort of stuff in the backing. But if she wasn't as big of an actor, I don't know what would have happened. It would have been, maybe it wouldn't have even gotten to this point. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And this is definitely going to set precedent for other big actors and other companies and how they treat their big name talent. So,
well, I will just say this, and I'll close it off with this before we move on, because we actually have another Disney story. So I want to kind of just wrap up with everything that we have with Disney. But on top of what we were just saying of setting that precedent, I would say also just that idea of now with all of this going on, it's not just going to be with Disney. It'll be interesting just with studios in general. What they're going to be doing with their contracts in the end, because I mean, none of this was really foreseen of having what we had happen in the last year and a half with COVID and how that affected the industry. So how now, in the idea of there being, an act of God, like, you have those clauses in a lot of contracts.
Force majeure,
should this happen, like anything that is beyond our control, this is how we will compensate you accordingly. So, something like that, where you might start seeing that a lot more with, that a lot more with studios, just so they can get ahead of it. So you can avoid situations like these or instances like these. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. As I said, I hope it ends amicably, so that way, it doesn't affect, not just, how any, creative is compensated, but also it doesn't affect the potential that we have with the, with all the other things that are happening in MCU, because we have some awesome things coming. And Kevin Feige has a terrific relationship with all, his creatives, and it'll be a bummer to have that get in the way of that. So, but moving on. Okay. Let's see. We had a story, and as I said, we had a trio of Disney related stories. So the other story that came this week was from regarding Disney employees now being mandated to be vaccinated. So in a story out of Deadline, there was information stating that the Walt Disney Company is now going to have a requirement mandating that their employees be fully vaccinated. And in a statement, to quote, as I said, out of Deadline, it stated that, at the Walt Disney Company, the safety and well-being of our employees during the pandemic has been and continues to be a top priority toward that end. And based on the latest recommendations of scientists, health officials, and other medical professionals, that the COVID vaccine provides the best protection against severe infection. We're requiring that all salaried and non-union hourly employees in the U.S. are working at any of our sites be fully vaccinated. So I have thoughts on this, on this mandate, but as I said, as always, I'll pass it over to you before I share mine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's inevitable. I feel like more and more companies are going to do it. I mean, like in the article, it was stating that major new companies have also adopted some form of vaccine mandates, like Google, Facebook, Twitter, Washington Post, Lyft, Uber. I know Broadway, they're implementing those standards too. So it's a no-brainer. I mean, this is what's going to keep happening as the Delta variant and all these other, um, you know, hotspots are increasing their infections, because now it's more it's become more contagious. Well, supposedly more contagious with the Delta variant in certain areas where people are unvaccinated. So I mean, I get it. And the thing is, you got to remember, I mean, like it says here, Walt Disney World's in Florida, and I know Florida they're having a lot of issues with the surge in COVID cases. So I don't blame them, but yeah, I mean, it's obviously for, like I know we were talking like about their employees. This is interesting because they say employees and non-union, was it salaried and non-union hourly employees? I mean, it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, regardless of it, I mean, if you would think that it's being done for, I would still think it's for the employees' health, but it's also, yeah, I mean, these companies want to limit liability, so they have to put in these standards. But I mean, they did say there were up to certain exceptions, and then I guess people who weren't coming in, I guess if they're working remotely, they would have to still, I think they have like 60 days to complete their protocols, and any employees still working from home will need to provide verification of vaccination prior to their return, with certain limited exceptions. So I'm sure there's some exceptions, obviously, but it's just interesting to see, because it's like a lot of different big companies are doing this. So I'm sure, like, I'll be honest, like I don't have an issue with it really, but I mean, I know some people, not everyone wants to get vaccinated, or for whatever reason they have their own personal choice. I'm sure there's going to be, I mean, I'm sure there already are. There's going to be probably more like, legal challenges, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Because I know that some of the arguments I was hearing is like, in the medical field, they're dealing with people infected all the time, so that makes sense. But in these other companies that aren't always dealing with that, I mean, I wonder how that's going to hold up. But I don't blame companies for doing it, at least for new employees, because if they want to protect their other workers, or they want to minimize the risk of spreading it, I feel like this is not just going to be for, like a Walt Disney World or something. It's something that we were also talking about in the other show about, like, conventions. I mean, you got to look at the liability. Like, it's funny. It's like people could sue for whatever reason if they, I mean, of course, in this country, and say, hey, I don't want to get vaccinated, don't force me. But then also people could sue and say, hey, there could be some legal, a legal case. I'm sure. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that, like, if anyone could sue, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someone saying, hey, well, you're requiring me to go to work, and then I got infected with COVID.
I know.
I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard place to be in.
It provides a lot of challenges for sure on either end of it. It's not there are so many variables and instances, of why you have folks that have and why folks haven't. So, it's just interesting, just to have, that instance, you understand it too, because when it comes to any of their parks or places that people visit, you have folks that come from all over the world. So, I mean, it makes sense in that regard as to the reasoning behind it. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see going forward any of the other organizations, corporations that will start mandating it, as time progresses. What we're dealing with currently is such a ongoing, evolving thing, and it's so interesting. How before, we it was at a point where things are starting to relax, and now things are starting to pick back up. So who knows where we'll be in a couple of months for sure. So with that in mind, I want to get to our our next story. The next two that we have are get into some major films. Well, I suppose we have we then within the next couple of stories we have some trailers that did make the rounds this week. First up is House of Gucci, which released this week, and for those of you that are not aware of it, it's a film that will be directed by Ridley Scott. It details the assassination of Maurizio Gucci and the downfall of the Gucci family fashion dynasty. It has a star-studded cast that, as I said, you have Scott in the director's chair. You have Adam Driver as Maurizio Gucci, mentioned before. And you also have Lady Gaga as Patricia Reggiani, so his ex-wife. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. We have Jared Leto, we have Al Pacino, and many others. We have
Jeremy Irons.
So,
Yeah.
And seeing this trailer, Jerome, what are your thoughts?
It's so funny because I know we were having a conversation recently about what else is coming out in the fall or whatever, and it's like I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this movie. I mean, I heard about this briefly, but then when the trailer came out, I was like, oh yeah. And it's like I just wasn't really like checking for any updates or anything. And then when the trailer hits, I'm just like, man, this looks really good. I won't be surprised if Lady Gaga and at least Jared Leto get nominated. Because I mean, you look at the trailer, I'm like, damn, like the accents, the look, everything. I mean, I'm sure Adam Driver, he probably would get nominated too. But I didn't really know the specific backstory about what happened with the Gucci empire, but when I heard about this is based off of that book. What is it called? But anyway, I know it's based off of a book. Oh yeah, it's The House of Gucci: A Sensational Story of Murder, Madness, Glamour, and Greed by Sarah Gay Forden. Yeah, I mean, it just shows how versatile, obviously, Ridley Scott is with the projects he picks, and then yeah, I mean, the script must have been really good to attract this caliber of a cast, and it's yeah, I mean, it's just also interesting to just know about this story because I know it was in the press and everything. And I mean, if you follow this, I guess the luxury brands and some of their story, the story behind some of these companies, maybe you probably know, but. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting story that it's kind of crazy too because it's like I guess touching on all the elements of what makes a great drama. I mean, greed and loyalty and I guess jealousy and just I guess betrayal, but it's just by seeing the trailer just got me really excited. And I was like, yeah, this definitely looks like an Oscar contender. And it's just good seeing some of these actors also play different roles. Like, cause I mean, obviously Jared Leto, he's a great actor and he picked some really good projects, but I was like, wow. At first if they didn't say it was Jared Leto, I was like, I thought it was someone else playing that role. I was like, who the hell? I was like, Jared Leto. I was like, oh,
yeah,
snap,
he's a comedian. Yeah,
a chameleon.
Chameleon, geez.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Chameleon.
But I was like, and of course, Lady Gaga. I feel like with Lady Gaga, she almost was preparing for this role ever since she came out with her music videos, like because she's all about like fashion and high end fashion and that type of character. I mean, she actually went to NYU for a little bit. My one of my friends, I think he like played at a talent show with her back in the day. It was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like she had more. She has definitely more ambitions than just of being a great pop singer. She obviously has displayed that she's already showcased that she can act. I mean, if you saw, was A Star Is Born, and
right.
I applaud that. Like, she's making that transition and she's doing it right because I feel like some singers, they try to do something that's or if they haven't proven their acting chops yet, sometimes they try to go too far outside of what their range is at first, and then it's like oh, we don't feel like we're watching that character or watching you feel like you're watching that artist. But it's like if you slowly, do certain parts, smaller parts, or you do something that's similar to what you've already what your image is or what you've shown the world, and then you slowly transition into different things that are closer to what you can do, or just and that are challenging. Then I feel like it's a little more. It seems more authentic. Like for her, I don't feel like when I'm watching something like I don't think of like, oh, and this in the trailer. I don't think, oh, that's Lady Gaga. I'm like, no, she sounds like she fits this role, and it definitely looks exciting. So it's definitely on my list of movies to watch this fall.
Yeah, for sure. And with thinking of that, we've already talked on it just now. There's such an impressive ensemble on display for this film. Just on paper, on that alone, it's something that would intrigue me to check it out. I'm not real well versed with their stories. So, in watching a film and not really being privy to all of that, it would be cool to check that out, as I'm not very too privy to that. So yeah, I mean, in considering all the players that are involved, it's definitely an intriguing piece, and it will definitely more than likely be award bait, considering when it's being released. I didn't mention this at the top of the story, but it will actually be released on November 24th. I don't know what it is by November 24th, apparently, because we had
Is that what it
Hawkeye
says?
that's also
Yeah.
coming out on November 24th. So
Well, it's Thanksgiving. Well, it's
yeah,
Thanksgiving.
I know.
That's
So
why.
you have that
That's what you
period of
do.
time. Yeah, you
You
have that
release.
extensive period of time for people to go to the
You got to give
theater.
them
But
variety. You give
yeah,
them variety. But I
yeah,
mean, Hawkeye isn't being released in theaters, but that's TV. You got to give people. You got to give people variety to watch something in theaters, maybe, and then you come home and if you're gonna watch football, you can also watch Hawkeye. So
I suppose.
you got to mix it up. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's just options. They try to give you options.
No,
So
no, I get you. I get you. I just
for the
find it
holiday
funny
season,
of
yeah,
having it specific. It just so happens that we have both of these projects dropping
that makes sense.
the same day. So our next story that we had deals with Universal and Peacock. So they are apparently spending nearly $500 million, so $400 million on a new Exorcist trilogy. Yes, a new Exorcist trilogy. I didn't realize that we were in need of an Exorcist trilogy because we haven't really had. If I'm really well, no, I guess we have had the what is it? The franchise that just had an installment. I'm brain farting on it right
With the
now.
Purge or Don't
No,
Breathe.
with
Don't Breathe.
the married couple um that are like exorcists or solve crimes. I can't believe I'm brain farting on it now, but
The Conjuring or no?
The Conjuring, thank you.
Okay.
So with The Conjuring, I guess with that, maybe with the success of that franchise, and perhaps that might be why we're seeing this. But outside of that, I can't really think of any other reason. Normally when you have like a push for a lot of you have a push towards a lot of different franchises or types of franchises coming, it's because you're starting to see a trend. Give me an example. We had The Matrix come out. When that came out in what, 97, you started to see it. 90 was it 99?
1999. Yes.
99?
It was 1999. I know it's 1999.
Okay, so 99.
Trust me, you can look it up right now. It's 1999. That was a year of great movies, man. 1999.
It's well over 20 years ago, whatever the case may be. But my point being that when we have a film like that is so groundbreaking, you typically have a lot of folks that want to remix that or get a piece of some of that action, so to speak, of the success of it. So you'll see other films that try to borrow things from it. So we saw a lot of like wire food type of like action franchises after we had like the Matrix do that. And then even with the MCU, like we had a lot of studios try and fail to try to copy
shared universe,
or do that shared universe. So perhaps it's the same thing happening here, because as I said, that's the only one that comes to mind that kind of, you could say, is in that wheelhouse. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't know if I really agree with that completely, because this is the Exorcist already is like a well-known property, and they had a bunch of sequels already. And horror films there's always horror films coming out, so I don't really. Horror films have been like a go-to genre usually, because they're so cheap to make usually, and then
well, let me be clear. That's subgenre of horror. Let me be clear on that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying horror films in general have like always like. I don't think this is necessarily because I think this is just because you're seeing deals on different street. Like this is similar to like the Netflix deal with Knives Out. They're spending around a similar amount to do 2 sequels to be on Netflix. So to me, it sounds more like intellectual property that is known or people liked or whatever, and a competing streaming company is trying to capitalize off of that so they can get more subscribers. Because like in the story, they're talking about how they would make the first movie theatrically released, and then the sequels possibly only on Peacock. And why would they do that? Well, they want people to subscribe. I mean, it makes sense. So I feel like it's these companies trying to make the most of whatever franchise they have on the books that they can actually capitalize on, and then try to premiere these movies or these projects on their streaming service exclusively so they can get more subscribers. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't like looking out for that, but I just thought the story was interesting because I was like, wow, 400 million for a trilogy. I was like, wow, that means they're spending some decent money. And it's good. They're gonna get Leslie Odom Jr. From Hamilton and One Night in Miami. He's gonna be in it, and it's gonna be directed by David Gordon Green.
And they are bringing back one of the original stars.
Yeah, that's
from
true.
I understand. So I mean,
yeah,
you
Ellen
have
Burstyn.
that. Yeah.
So
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Like it's yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what comes of it for sure. But I don't know. It just seems like, an insane amount of resources, to produce those films. And a lot of times I feel like the best horror films are those that are really strapped for resources, because they really have to be creative in being able to tell the story and to provide the scares and to produce the effects. And I feel like those that have, I mean, I can maybe count a handful of horror films that had a lot of resources that were really good. Most of the ones that we all know and love, if you really, do the research on them, they had challenges. Yeah, they had challenges with the money and the resources that they have. But I feel like because they didn't have a lot of resources, they were better for it. So
unless they're trying to delve deep into like supernatural like effects or something, you know what I'm saying? Because to me, it sounds like you would spend that much money on like, I don't know, like a sci-fi movie or an action movie maybe. But it's weird because I mean, it is kind of odd, but I don't know. Maybe they're trying to. I have no idea. I mean, think about 400 million for 3 movies. That's more than 100. I mean, that's like at least more than 100 million. Maybe unless this is gonna add, unless they're gonna add like it's gonna be more than 3 movies, or they're gonna do like a series or something. I don't know. Unless that's just premature. I don't know, but I just thought that's a lot. I mean, I guess somehow they're trying to blow it out of the water. The type of projects that they have on the streaming service to make you not think, oh, this is just some TV project. But I just don't see how you need that much money for these movies. I mean, unless they're doing some really crazy special effects stuff that they're trying to update from the original one. And this is supposed to be more of a continuation, not exactly a remake, but I just thought that was really.
Yeah. And I mean, it looks like, shout out to Josh for hopping on and watching with us. Hello, Josh, Trek fan. But yeah, he said the mom. He's commenting on what we were saying. The mom coming back. He said, "I'm on board." So considering what they're trying to do, I'm on board. So you guys have you guys have someone out there who is very excited about what you have going. For me, it's more of a wait and see, just waiting to see, what comes of it. Perhaps I'll change my thought. I'll never say never. Once I actually see some footage of what it is that they're trying to do and what
You
they're
like
after.
remakes, so you like horror remakes.
We'll see. But it just, I
You're
don't
a
know. It
big
just
horror remake
seems.
fan, so I'm sure maybe no, I don't know.
I'll just say it just seems odd that you invest this much
400 million is a
into.
lot.
Yeah,
For
that's
some
a
horror
lot of money.
because
A
horror
lot.
films are usually like low budget, like sci-fi movies.
Exactly.
A lot of them,
Exactly.
and those are, yeah, I agree with you. I think the best ones have been, so, and a lot of times they don't even have a lot of. It's more like what you don't see. It's the suspenseful ones, but But Blumhouse is producing it, so I'm sure that that 400 million is going to go a long way because they're great at doing low budget
That is
stuff.
true. That is
So maybe
true.
they're going to make more than 3 movies. Maybe they're going to make like 10, and they're just not telling us.
But yeah, no, like my favorite film, and then I'll close it with this. My favorite film of all time, and I've said it to many folks out there, is The Thing. So John Carpenter's The Thing from the 80s is like, it doesn't matter if it's on TV right now. I could watch it right now and enjoy it. Like, it still holds up even after all this time. So and again, not having a lot of computer effects. A lot of it was, prosthetics and effects that they were able to create there right there on the spot. And it makes it that much more effective as a horror film. So closing it there, another trailer that made the rounds this week was King Richard. And for those of you that are, not aware of this project, it is a film that deals with the family of Venus and Serena Williams. It centers around, the relationship with their father, who is being played by Will Smith. So Richard Williams being played by Will Smith. Sanaa Sidney will be playing Venus Williams, and Demi Singleton will be playing Serena Williams. Now, if one of those names sound familiar, and if it doesn't, that's fine too. But when I was watching the trailer, Jerome, and I mentioned this to you, I was looking at, the cast, and I was like, why do I recognize, some of the actresses, who they have playing the younger versions of the Williams sisters, and the one of the actresses who I had just mentioned. So who did I say? Sanaa Sidney actually was in a science fiction-esque series that is no longer on the air now, but it was on Fox, called The Passage, which I enjoyed a lot, and was kind of bummed to see it go. So it was cool to see her back and to have her in this project. Because if you haven't seen The Passage, guys, I would highly recommend it for you, even if you're not really a big a horror person, but you enjoy science fiction. It was a pretty cool series, and as I said, bummed to not see it get a second season, considering where they left it off for it to continue into season 2. But Jerome, I know we were just talking about, what was it, the Gucci film, talking about that one, and we have this film too, King Richard, which is more than likely be another awards bait film, if you will. So what were your thoughts on what you saw in this trailer?
No, I was impressed. I mean, Will Smith, I think, I still would like to see Will Smith probably play like a totally, maybe like a bad guy or something that's totally different to his personality. But in the meanwhile, he's still picking some really good, I guess, biopics, you want to say, or biopics, and just stories based on real people. And like I said, I don't know how the real father of the Venus, the Williams sisters sounds like or looks like. I'm hearing that he is obvious, that he's has a darker complexion or whatever. And I've heard some criticism. Like I said, no one's gonna be always happy. I've heard some criticism online of people like, Will Smith is light skinned and he should, it should have been like a darker skinned person playing. I'm like, okay, but at the same time, Will Smith is bringing the story to life too.
It's whoever is the most talented to be able to bring that character to life.
And this is my thing, and I understand that argument. You can make that argument. That's true, but nobody knew. No one really knew who the guy in Concussion was, and he looks totally different to Will Smith. But Will Smith, I still think, did a great job. I enjoyed that movie. even though he didn't get nominated. And the same even with Chris Gardner in Pursuit of Happiness. Like if you look at the real Chris Gardner, he doesn't look exactly like the dude either. But Will Smith was amazing in that. This one too, like I don't know that guy's accent, like how he sounds, and I know in the trailer you kind of get a specific accent that Will Smith has, in there. But I mean, the emotion, like you're looking at the facial expressions, I'm looking at how he's portraying everything. It looks like he's gonna. Hopefully, I mean, if the movie's pretty good and the performance is at that level, I mean, I think he probably would get nominated. And it also looks really inspiring. I mean, I know Will Smith likes to. It seems like Will Smith really likes to make movies because I think he produced this film. He likes to make films that are really motivational and inspiring. And this is. I don't know the whole story of Venus and Serena Williams and how they grew up and how they became successful. But I mean, apparently, like if their father was this important and integral to their life and how he pushed them and got them to where they are right now and trained them and motivated them and just like really pushed them to this level. That's an amazing story. I mean, anyone who has two daughters that are that successful in the sport, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's like unheard of. And also they came from Compton. It's like to go into tennis and you're from like, an underprivileged neighborhood or a neighborhood that's, that maybe doesn't see that many people become successful in a sport like tennis. I mean, that's to me already, that's an amazing story. So I'm curious to see how it is. The trailer looks great. I mean, Will Smith, I think he's great in these roles, and he likes to switch it up, doing like a fun big movie, and then he does like a serious film like this. So he's pretty good at continuing that trend. And I mean, the supporting cast also looks pretty good. I mean, you also have Tony Goldwyn, from Scandal, and you have John Bernthal, Punisher. He's in it. Dylan McDermott from The Practice, and then they also have someone from Anjanou Ellis, I don't know, from Lovecraft Country, who plays his wife.
Yep.
So I don't know if I pronounced it right. Maybe I did. But no, I mean, look, of course it's just a trailer. We haven't seen the movie, but to me, I'm definitely gonna watch it. And Will Smith looks like he's doing an amazing job. And I think people should just watch the movie first before trying to criticize from a trailer. But that's what it is. You always get that online. But I just thought that was, I don't know, for me, just when I hear stuff like that, it's like, come on, man, give the guy a chance. Let him watch the movie first and then make. But that's how it is.
I would just say overall, just the idea, because we see this, it's not even in examples like this. One thing that comes to mind for me is if we're talking about any type of adaptation, whether it's a novel, whether it's a graphic novel, comic book, whatever it is, whatever the medium is, even video games, like folks need to relax. Like at the end of the day, I would take you take the talent over being a stickler on what the looks are, because I'll give you plenty of examples where we have characters that you have race swaps of certain characters, especially when we're thinking of like comic book related properties, and they work perfectly fine because you're still encompassing what the spirit of that character is. And I would rather have a character that can embody, what I foresee for that character and what their value system is and what they're about, more so than, someone who just looks like a carbon copy of who that character is. So, I feel like that takes more importance than, how someone looks doesn't take as much importance as their talent and their ability to be able to embody that character at the end of the day. So with that said, do you have any final thoughts before we hop into our very last story, which is of course the Suicide Squad?
No, only last thing I'll say is obviously, and that's why I laugh at some of the criticisms, like whatever. I know we talk about this, but Serena and Venus Williams, they're executive producers, so obviously they didn't have an issue with Will Smith being cast. And people got to also remember, just the last thing I'll say is like, sometimes some of these stories don't get told, and you need a big star like Will Smith, you know, to take it up, and then it gets made. I mean, hey, I'm all for authenticity as much as possible. Yes, especially for people, you know, people of color, minorities, marginalized people. But I mean, sometimes some things, you know, there are some changes or whatever. And like, look, if the people who are the movie's based on are okay with him being in it, like I don't have an issue with that. I just hope the movie's good, and you know, I believe the emotion and everything that he's emoting and portraying in that character. And based on the trailer, it looks, regardless of what's the accuracies of everything regarding the father, their father, it to me it looks like a good, compelling, emotional, inspirational film that you know, I look forward to watching. So we'll see how it is.
For sure, for sure. So, without further ado, we'll get into our last story today, which is closing off into a film that we were fortunate enough to be able to check out this week, which is The Suicide Squad. So, I don't want to get into any like, any non,
Put up the spoiler.
yeah.
No,
No, no, no,
no,
no. It's going to be a non-spoiler,
I know,
guys, because I want you to still be able
yeah,
to,
yeah.
enjoy. For those of you who haven't seen it,
I
because it
know.
premieres next week, I
That's
want to
true.
give you guys an opportunity to be able to enjoy it because there's so many surprises in there. But I will say this: it's a lot of fun. It's very irreverent in terms of elements that they have in that film. It's far more, and I mean, this is. You'll probably say, well, duh, it's rated R. It's really violent. Like more, they get away with a lot of stuff in this movie where I was like, wow, I can't believe they were able to swing that or able to
Yeah,
get that in there,
R-rated. They can
even
do an R-rated movie.
even as an R-rated
Oh,
film.
you
Like
can, you
there
can.
was some
It's comical.
elements.
It's like
It is.
Deadpool. It's like
But there was
Deadpool had a
some.
lot of violence like that
Well,
too.
hold on. There was some elements in there where I was like, wow, I'm surprised. A lot of times when you're dealing with, and the only reason why I bring this up is because like I enjoy watching like director commentaries when they're talking about, okay, well, this movie needed to be PG-13, and the only way we were able to make it PG-13 is if we were able to take this, this number of expletives out, or if we were able to change like the context of the blood and gore, because it was a alien violence versus human violence. But yeah, that is all out the window. That everything is on display to see. I will say that they did do one thing, and I'll let you guys, they kind of they do have it in the trailer, but they do something kind of creative, I guess, that helped with their rating in terms of like showing a lot of the blood
Oh,
and violence that deals with Harley. That's all I'll say. But maybe that was kind of like the tipping point. If they had that in there, maybe that would have sent the rating over the edge. I know a lot of times it's about when it
yeah,
comes
or
to
like Kill Bill making scenes black and white because after
yeah,
a while,
like I know a lot of times it deals with the amount of it, so the number of times that they can count it, that kind of affects that rating system. So I'm guessing maybe that played a hand. But Jerome, what were your thoughts? Because I had some other things, but I want to pass the baton to you.
yeah, man. I gotta thank you for inviting me to that. Anyway, because I mean, I'm gonna go see it again. Hey, that shows how much I'm gonna. Yeah,
As will I.
I'm still gonna go see it. Yeah, I convinced my other friend Gerald. If you're out there, Gerald, what up? I convinced him to go see it now. I was like, dude, you're gonna like it. If you like Guardians of the Galaxy, you like, and to me, this is like on par, or even I would even say better. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. At least on par. Man, no, I loved it. Way better than the first one. Um, you know, very action packed, very funny, stylistically amazing, on point. James Gunn, he's great at making movies like this with these characters. um, Also compelling, also really good story. There's major stakes. There's it's not just by the numbers. It's not just you're just trying to get through the plot or whatever. No, it's like there's certain parts of the movie where it's like certain characters have to make certain decisions that are difficult, and it's not completely predictive. Now it's true. I was able to predict. Yeah, you're able to predict some things, but some things you're like, whoa. And also just knowing just knowing which characters might perish or whatever. It's not always predictable. And then also, yeah, it's just really funny, really entertaining. And you've seen in the trailer, like with the villain or whatever, James Gunn's able to pull off having like a really ridiculous looking villain in there, but it works though because he's not taking it completely seriously, but also they make it they make it devastating enough and interesting enough, and also there's some social commentary, there's some political commentary, and that's part of this, that adds to the stakes, adds to the decisions that are made by certain characters, and there's some twists and turns. And there's some situations where you're like, this is a good practical way that you're able to continue the story, as opposed to like, oh, let's just rely on some I guess luck of the draw moment of this happened coincidentally. Like there was a lot of situations where it's like there's ridiculous situations, of course, and action, but they're kind of like earned. They're more earned, or it's part of the style, and then also. They set some of these things up better. So it's like, okay, if this happens, you're like, they were talking about it before, or they were building on it. So
yeah.
it's very well written. It was very well written. Like the dialogue and everything, the plot, the story, and also like, I mean, and the characters, and then like how they were executed. I mean, it's done so well. And to me, right, honestly, it's like in the top. I would say. It's like in the top 3 for the DCU. Like for me, my favorite ones are Man of Steel, Shazam, Zack Snyder's Justice League. But this didn't need to be recut. So honestly, I'd put this up there. To me, it's probably tied with Man of Steel and Shazam. Or maybe I'd probably say Man of Steel. That's probably, to me, I'd probably say it's up there as like the best, one of the best, at least top 2 DCU movies. And I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I almost would say it's like it's on par, at least with Guardians of the Galaxy, or maybe I might say it's a little bit better. Because it's just done so well, and it's and it's in the realm of like I said, of like a Deadpool movie, which it should have been for the last one. I almost want to see James Gunn do a Deadpool movie now. I feel like he could do it. He could do the third one if he wants. He should definitely come back and do the sequel to this. I know they're probably gonna do another one. And then I'll lastly say, right now, to me, this is the best movie so far this year I've seen. So I mean, there's been decent movies, but like, I think this is the best movie so far. We'll see what happens in the fall, but so far, this is the best movie of 2021 for me.
Okay, all right. That's a lot of praise.
I give it an A. I give it an A.
All right, fair enough. Just to add to what I was saying about it being irreverent and being far more violent than I thought, which I don't have a problem with. It's just that as I said, I was surprised they were able to get away with as much as they did. Another thing that I'll say that was really cool about this film is the idea that there is you were just talking about Deadpool. There's very much a wink at the audience of Gunn understanding the genre that he's in, and the type of movie that he's doing, in that there are certain tropes, and there's actually one element that I actually enjoyed out of Black Widow, where they kind of had that running gag of like the posing. So like, you have, it's not specifically posing, mind you, but they have elements of that where they kind of are winking to the audience like, yeah, we know what type of movie this is, and this is something that is like a given in this type of movie. And so, instead of kind of like shying away from it, we're going to dig right into it, and we're going to really, get into it and really play with it and have fun with it. So, that those elements were really really fun and quite hilarious. And I'll also say this, in that considering all you're talking about the villain and how ridiculous it is. With Gunn, he is someone who has effectively been able to make the ridiculous feasible. I mean, we have a weasel in this movie, a humanoid weasel in this movie. We have a humanoid shark in this movie. We have a guy who
detaches off
polka dots. And we have another guy who, you know, as it was quoted in the film, essentially has a toilet seat on his head. So, like with all of those elements
And a rat catcher.
and a rat catcher to boot. So with all of those things in there, all of those elements in there, on paper, it seems like there's no way that something like this would work. But maybe in the wrong hands, it definitely wouldn't work. But based on the track record that Gunn has and his affinity to be able to bring life to characters that otherwise would kind of be thrown to the wayside, it's very, very effective. Like even with just in general with gosh, I'm brain farting on our character's name. Dubois with Bloodsport. Thank you. With Bloodsport, like the action scenes that they had with him, I was like, okay, how are they going to kind of make him feel different than our other characters that all have like abilities, so to speak? And he really gets his like moments to shine, and he really brings, you know, a cool element to the table that all the other characters don't bring. Even though he is, you know, just a guy, you know, he has, you know, he's able to bring a unique set of skills to the table that allows him to be cool, even amongst all these characters that are like metahumans or superhuman in some way. So, yeah, like if it arrives next week, August 6th, definitely check it out for sure. I plan on checking it out more than
what do you give it? What do you give it?
Once. If I were to give it out of, and I might be a
letters, get letters, not no stars.
And I might be a little harsher than you. I would give it a B plus.
So what movie was better than Suicide Squad this year so far? I want to know. What was the best movie this year so far that you think?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, there have been a lot of films that
came out in theaters.
No, I know. So I'm saying there have been a lot of films that have disappointed, unfortunately. And I mean, not in a major way. So like, I would still say, even out of all the films that have come out this year, it still has the highest rating out of all the films I've seen. So just because it's not an A,
but you would say so far, would you say this is the best movie of the summer so far? I would say for the summer, obviously, so far. And
yeah.
But I'm saying for the year, though, would you say for the year?
Out of all the movies? I'm not ready to say for the year yet because
so far. I'm saying so far.
So far.
What movie has been better than this so far? That's what. Of course, the year isn't over. We have other options. But so far, to me, I was actually like impressed. I was like, this was a satisfying film. I mean, of course, I'm not saying it's like it's like the best movie ever, but based on everything that I've seen this year, like, I mean, to me, I think it's way better than Fast 9. Black Widow was I thought that was good, but just not the same level. I liked it more than Mortal Kombat, Godzilla vs. Kong was decent, but still not the same level. What else came out? I mean, I did see Stillwater. That was good. And Zola was decent. But still, like, even so, Suicide Squad, I mean, I would say probably Stillwater so far as, like, maybe, like, up as number 2 or something. But, yeah, like, Snake Eyes, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, Old. None of those movies are at that level. I'm just saying. Everything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Agree to disagree. As you're asking for a grade. So if I were to grade it.
No, we have to agree to the grade. I'm just saying. Out of all the movies that came out so far, that's fine. I mean, I'm surprised you give it B+. I wonder what you give Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's probably B+ too, right?
No, so here's my thought, and I know most people like really enjoyed the. Well, I know some folks are kind of split on the sequel for Guardians of the Galaxy. I still liked it, but I didn't like it as much as the original. The original I would give like an A-, and the sequel I would give a B. So I do like this better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or Volume 2, if you will. But yeah, like I said, so far it's a B+. And here's the crazy thing, you know, at least for right now, that's where it sits for me. You know, sometimes it's based on, you know, you watch it a couple of more times. That may adjust itself and may become an A-, you know, in watching in a second viewing. But at least right now, as it stands, for me, it's a B+. I mean, as I said, I had a great deal of fun watching this movie. It was a lot of fun to watch. However, at the same time, like it if I am ranking it among, you know, some of, because I know it's been getting a lot of praise as like one of the top like the best superhero movie ever, and I wouldn't say that. So like with that in mind,
I
it's
would put
up
it up.
there.
I would put up in
Yeah, it's up there. It's definitely among. It's a top. It's a top among.
I would say for me, I would probably say it's at least in the top, probably top 10 best.
That's fair. No, I'll give you that.
For DC, I would say for DC movies, I mean,
DC is top 3. I will give you that. Yes,
I'm probably tying this with Man of Steel, or actually, I think I might say it's number 1 now, because even Man of Steel I enjoy, but there's some parts of that movie pacing wise where it was just like it didn't, you know, it wasn't as good. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but and Shazam I really like also, but it just isn't at this level, like the scale. Like it's just the scale of this movie and like how everything was done. Like it's such a good combination of everything. To me, I put this at that level of like Deadpool. Like it's like it's like the DC's version of Deadpool so far, I think. And Deadpool, I mean, is obviously amazing. And the second one, but at least in that level, like for being unique and being different, it's definitely it's definitely one of DC's, either, to me it's like 1 or 2, and you could say, I mean, it really is going to depend on what you like of all time, because you know there's a lot of different, some people just like Spider-Man more or whatever, but I mean it's hard to say, because it's true, there's a lot of great, I mean it's hard to beat, for me, like obviously Avengers Infinity War, Endgame, or you know, Dark Knight, what else, you know, the first Avengers, Captain America Civil War. What?
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier's up there too, yeah. But I mean, it depends. I think it's going to depend on what you like more. But this is definitely, I would say this is probably, it probably would be in the top 10 of best comic book movies.
I would agree with you there.
Something like that.
No,
yeah.
There.
I mean, if someone said it was, I wouldn't disagree either, because it's just going to depend on your taste. Because you could say Deadpool is one of the better ones too, but it depends on what do you like more. Really, it really depends on what you like more, because it is what it is. But
if my affinity for the film is any indication, as I said, I saw it once, saw it this past week, and I'm gonna see it probably a couple of more times, you know, this week when it releases. So if that gives you any indication of how much fun it is for sure fun. You know, if you are at a theater where you know you're able to, you know, grab a beer, you know, get a alcoholic drink, like, or
get some
like super late at night,
some like macaroni cheese balls.
Sure, check it out.
Get those macaroni cheese balls.
For sure, check it out. So closing off there, before we go, Jerome, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at JW Bourgeois 21 on Twitter or Instagram. Definitely, you can you know, follow, like, and support us on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited, on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD, and on Facebook at Move and Shake UNLTD. And also, you know, if you want to be a Patreon supporter, you can go to patreon.com, Movers Shakers Unlimited. Yeah, we'll be back next week, and I'm sure there'll be some more stories to talk about. And you can I'll send it back to you, Brandon.
All right, cool. So yes, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram, as Jerome said. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT, which you can see down below. You can also find me at Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. Other than that, be safe out there, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and see you soon. Peace.